The sun has long since dipped below the horizon, leaving behind a sky of deep, bruised purple that slowly fades into the charcoal gray of a Roman winter night. The air outside the villa is crisp and cold. It carries the faint scent of wood smoke from the distant hearths of the city, settling over the stone streets like a heavy, silent blanket. Inside the compound, the wind is barely a whisper, blocked by high walls of sturdy brick and smooth plaster. There is nothing to do here but listen. There is nothing to achieve. The day is done. The tasks are finished. You do not need to remember any names. You do not need to recall any dates. You can simply let the scene unfold slowly and quietly as the Roman world prepares for rest. In the outer courtyard, far removed from the sleeping quarters of the household, stands the stable. It is a long, low building, roofed with terracotta tiles that have weathered many seasons of rain and sun. Inside, the air is warm and smells faintly of dry hay and sweet grain. This is where the donkeys live. Not just a few, but hundreds of them. History tells us that for the noblewomen of Rome, particularly those who sought the most porcelain-white skin, a herd of 500 donkeys was required to provide enough milk for a single, luxurious bath. 500 gentle, quiet animals, standing in their stalls, chewing slowly on their evening hay. Imagine the sound of 500 animals breathing in a steady rhythm. It is a soft, collective sigh that fills the wooden structure. The straw beneath their hooves rustles softly as they shift their weight, left to right, right to left. There is no urgency here. The donkeys are calm. Their long ears twitch occasionally, catching the sound of a mouse in the rafters or the wind outside, but mostly they are still. Their coats are thick for the winter, a dusty gray that blends into the shadows of the stable. Attendants move among them. These are not soldiers or politicians. They are simple workers with calloused hands and quiet voices. They move with a practiced slowness, a routine etched into their muscles by years of repetition. They carry wooden pails and stools. They sit beside the animals. Listen to the sound of the milking. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic sound. Swish, swish. A stream of warm, white milk hits the side of a wooden bucket. Swish, swish. It is a consistent beat like a very slow drum or the ticking of a clock that measures time not in seconds but in gallons. One bucket fills, then another. The milk is frothy and warm, stark white against the dark wood of the pail. It rises slowly, inch by inch. The worker stands up. He pats the flank of the donkey gently. The dust rises in a tiny mote-filled cloud that dances in the light of a single oil lamp hanging from a beam. He moves to the next animal. He sits. He begins again. Swish, swish. There is no need to track how many buckets are filled. The number does not matter. It is simply a process, a long, continuous flow of liquid. The buckets are carried to the end of the stable where they are poured into larger clay amphorae. These are tall, heavy jars with two handles and a narrow neck. The sound of the pouring is deeper, a glug-glug-glug that echoes slightly in the hollow clay. The milk swirls, mixing with the milk from the previous pail, creating a pool of pure white. Outside the stable, a cart waits. It is a simple flatbed cart with two wooden wheels. The wheels are rimmed with iron, but tonight they will not clatter loudly on the paving stones because the path to the bathhouse is lined with packed earth. The workers lift the heavy amphorae onto the cart, one by one. The clay grinds softly against the wood of the cart bed. They secure the jars with ropes made of hemp, tying knots with slow, deliberate movements. Loop, pull, tight. Loop, pull, tight. The rope is rough, the wood is smooth. The clay is cool to the touch. The donkey pulling the cart lowers its head. It breathes out and a plume of white steam escapes its nostrils, dissolving into the cold night air. The driver clicks his tongue softly. Not a shout, just a click. The cart begins to move. The wheels creak. A low, rhythmic groan of wood on wood. The cart sways gently. The milk inside the jars sloshes against the clay walls, a hidden tide moving in the dark. They walk the short distance to the bathhouse wing of the villa. The path is lined with cypress trees, their dark, needle-like leaves standing silhouetted against the night sky. The trees do not move. There is no wind now. Everything is still. The only sound is the crunch of sandals on the gravel path and the rolling of the cart. We arrive at the back of the bathhouse. This is the service entrance, the profernium. This is the room where the heat is born. It is a space of fire and ash, but tonight the fire is low, maintained at a steady, banking glow. The furnace is built of brick, a dark mouth that breathes heat into the spaces beneath the floor. A slave, known as the fornicator, tends to the fire. He does not rush. He picks up a piece of charcoal with iron tongs. The metal scrapes against the stone floor, scrape. He places the charcoal into the furnace. He watches it catch the light, turning from black to a glowing orange. He adds another piece, and another. He is controlling the temperature of the floor in the rooms above. If it is too hot, the bath will be uncomfortable. If it is too cold, the milk will not soothe the skin. It must be perfect. It must be tepid. The heat travels from the furnace into the hypocaust. This is the secret world beneath the Roman floor. Rows of pillars, stacks of square tiles called pili, support the floor of the bathhouse. The hot air from the fire flows through this labyrinth of pillars, winding its way under the heavy mosaic floors, warming the stone from below. It flows up through hollow terracotta tubes in the walls, wrapping the room in a warm embrace. Imagine the air moving through those dark, dusty channels. Silent, invisible heat. It creeps through the brick. It seeps into the concrete. It warms the marble tiles of the bathroom floor above until they are pleasant to walk upon with bare feet. The workers from the cart begin to unload the amphorae of milk. They carry them into the preparation room. The room is dimly lit by oil lamps set in niches in the wall. The flames flicker gently, casting long, dancing shadows that stretch across the vaulted ceiling. The smell here is different. It smells of olive oil, lavender, and the faint, sweet scent of the milk. They approach the tub. The bath itself is carved from a single block of marble. It is white, veined with soft gray streaks that look like trapped smoke. It is smooth, polished by years of water and cloth until it feels like glass. It is empty now, waiting. The first jar is uncorked. The sound is a soft pop. The worker lifts the jar, bracing it on his shoulder. He tilts it. The donkey milk cascades out. It is thicker than water, richer. It falls into the marble tub with a heavy, splashing sound. It hits the bottom and spreads, covering the cold stone in a layer of white. He pours until the jar is empty. He sets it down. He takes the next one. The process repeats. Lift, tilt, pour, splash. Slowly, the level of the liquid rises. It covers the bottom of the tub. It rises past the first inch. Then the second. The steam begins to rise from the milk, not because the milk is boiling. It was fresh from the animal. But because the room is warm and the floor beneath the tub is radiating that gentle heat from the furnace. The milk warms up as it sits in the marble cradle. The steam is thin and wispy. It curls into the air, vanishing before it reaches the ceiling. The room becomes humid, soft. The hard edges of the architecture seem to blur in the moisture. There is no conversation among the workers. They know their task. They know the rhythm. Lift, tilt, pour. Outside, the moon has risen. It is a pale, waxing crescent hanging high above the Roman rooftops. Its light turns the garden statues into silver sentinels. A fountain in the courtyard trickles, a ceaseless, gentle murmur of water falling into water. Drip, drip, drip. Inside the bathhouse, the tub is now half full. The whiteness of the milk is absolute. It is opaque. You cannot see the bottom of the tub anymore. If you were to dip your hand in, your fingers would disappear beneath the surface. It looks like a cloud that has been captured and liquefied. The workers pause to rest. They wipe their brows with linen cloths. The room is quiet again, save for the settling of the liquid in the tub. The milk settles. The bubbles on the surface pop one by one. Snap, snap, tiny, almost inaudible sounds. This is the life of the household at night. While the masters and mistresses dine or sleep, the machinery of comfort continues to turn. The fire burns. The air flows. The milk waits. There is a stack of towels on a wooden bench nearby. They are made of thick Egyptian linen. A slave begins to fold them. He shakes out a cloth. It makes a sharp thwack in the quiet air. He folds it in half. He smooths the crease with the palm of his hand. Swish. He folds it again. He smooths it again. He places it on the stack. He picks up the next towel. Thwack, fold, smooth, stack. It is a perfect square. The edges align perfectly. He is meticulous. There is no rush. The bath will not be used for another hour. The milk must reach the exact temperature of the human body. Let your mind rest on the image of the folded towels. Layer upon layer of clean, cream-colored fabric. Soft, dry, waiting to be used. The pile grows higher. It is a tower of linen. The lamp oil is running low in one of the sconces. The flame dips, causing the shadows in the room to lengthen and contract like the room itself is breathing. A worker notices. He takes a small jug of olive oil. He approaches the lamp. He pours a thin stream of golden oil into the reservoir. The flame brightens, steady and yellow. The shadows stabilize. The light reflects off the surface of the milk bath. The liquid is so still now that it acts like a mirror, catching the yellow pinprick of the lamp flame. A perfect reflection. The preparation is nearly complete. The tub is filled to the brim. 500 donkeys, countless buckets, dozens of heavy clay jars, all for this pool of white stillness. The workers begin to gather the empty amphorae. They lift them back onto their shoulders. The jars are lighter now, filled only with air. They carry them out, back to the cart. The wheels creak again as the weight settles. The donkey puffs another cloud of steam into the night. The cart rolls away, the sound of the wheels fading slowly into the distance, swallowed by the silence of the Roman winter. The bathhouse is left alone. The steam continues to rise very gently. The heat from the floor continues to radiate very softly. The water in the fountain outside continues to drip. The world is at peace. There is nothing left to do but wait. The room is warm. The light is dim. The silence is heavy and comforting. Everything is ready. The bath of milk sits waiting in the warm room, a silent white lake. But the preparation for a Roman bath is not merely about the liquid in the tub. It is about the ritual of the skin, the layers of scent, and the texture of oil. Just down the corridor from the steam-filled caldarium lies a smaller, cooler room known as the Unctuarium. This is the room of oils and perfumes. It is a dry room, lined with shelves of cedar wood that smell faintly of resin and forest earth. The wood is dark, aged by decades of absorbing the spilled droplets of 1,000 different unguents. Tonight, the room is occupied by a single figure, an attendant, an elderly man with silver hair and a tunic of undyed wool. He moves with the economy of motion that comes from a lifetime of doing the same task over and over again. There is no hurry in his hands. He knows that the bath takes time to cool. He knows that the milk must settle. He has hours. The room is illuminated by 2 small clay lamps resting on a low wooden table. The flames are steady, protected from any draft by the thick stone walls of the villa. The light they cast is warm and orange, painting the room in shades of amber and brown. It reflects off the rows of glass bottles lining the shelves. These are not clear, modern glass. They are Roman glass, thick, slightly uneven, tinted with hues of aquatic green and pale blue. Some have tiny bubbles trapped within their walls, suspended forever in the solidified silica. When the light hits them, they glow like dull gemstones. The attendant approaches a large terracotta jar standing in the corner. It is waist-high, sealed with a heavy wooden lid. He lifts the lid. The sound of wood sliding against clay is a low, dry rasp. S-H-H-H-H-K. He sets the lid down on the floor. He dips a long-handled ladle into the jar. The ladle is made of bronze, its surface darkened by time but the bowl polished bright by the friction of liquid. He pulls the ladle up. It is full of olive oil. This is not the oil used for cooking. This is oleum pressed from green olives harvested early in the season, rich and thick. It flows from the ladle in a smooth, continuous ribbon, gold in the lamplight. It falls into a smaller, wide-mouthed mixing bowl made of alabaster. The stone of the bowl is milky white, translucent. As the gold oil fills it, the stone seems to glow from within, taking on the color of the sun. He repeats the motion: dip, lift, pour. The oil hits the surface of the pool in the bowl without a splash. It folds into itself, viscous and heavy. There is a faint, grassy scent that rises from the oil, the smell of sun-baked hillsides and olive groves, trapped in the liquid and now released into the cool winter air of the room. Once the bowl is half full, he stops. He places the ladle on a linen cloth. Now he turns to a row of small wooden boxes on the table. These boxes hold the dried treasures of the summer garden, preserved for the long winter nights. He opens one. Inside are dried lavender flowers. They are gray-purple, brittle and light. He pinches a small amount between his thumb and forefinger. The texture is dry and papery. He sprinkles them into a stone mortar. He opens another box. This one holds dried rose petals, faded from their vibrant red to a deep, dusty maroon. They are curled and fragile. He adds them to the mortar. He picks up the pestle. It is made of the same heavy gray stone as the mortar. He begins to grind. Listen to the sound: crunch, grind, twist. It is a gritty sound, the sound of dry matter being broken down into dust. He does not pound the herbs, that would be too violent, too loud. He presses and twists. The pestle rotates against the curved bottom of the mortar. Grind, scrape, grind. The movement is circular. His hand moves in a slow, perfect loop, around and around. The dried flowers break apart. They release their essential oils. The scent in the room changes. The grassy smell of the olive oil is joined by the sharp, floral note of lavender and the sweet, heavy musk of the rose. It is a clean smell, a calming smell. He continues this for a long time. There is no need to stop. The finer the powder, the better it will infuse the oil. He watches the pestle move. He watches the gray dust form. His breathing is slow and even. The shadows on the wall mimic his movement. A large, dark arm moving in a rhythmic circle, back and forth, back and forth. After the flowers are reduced to a fine, fragrant dust, he stops. He sets the pestle down. Clack, a soft sound of stone on wood. He lifts the mortar and tips the powder into the alabaster bowl of oil. The gray-purple dust sits on top of the gold liquid for a moment, floating like a dry island. Then, slowly, it begins to sink. The oil absorbs it. He picks up a glass stirring rod. It is a simple, twisted stick of clear glass. He inserts it into the bowl and begins to stir. The motion is silent now. The glass rod glides through the thick oil. He stirs gently, creating a slow vortex in the center of the bowl. The powder swirls, dispersing into the oil, turning it cloudy and fragrant. He stirs until every grain is suspended, until the oil carries the essence of the flowers. Next, the attendant reaches for the Unctuarium. These are small, delicate bottles used to hold the finished perfume oil. They are shaped like tears, with round bottoms and long, slender necks. He holds one in his left hand. In his right, he takes a small funnel made of beaten silver. He places the funnel in the neck of the bottle. He lifts the alabaster bowl. He pours. The oil moves slowly. It is thick with the herb dust. It coats the silver funnel, sliding down the spout and into the glass belly of the bottle. He watches the level rise. He must be precise. He must not spill a drop. The oil fills the bottle, pushing the air out. He stops pouring just as it reaches the neck. He sets the filled bottle aside and picks up another. Funnel, pour, watch, stop. The repetition is soothing. 1 bottle, 2 bottles, 3. They stand in a row on the table, filled with the golden gray mixture, ready to be used to massage the skin after the bath. The glass is cool to the touch, but the oil inside holds the ambient warmth of the room. When the last bottle is filled, he wipes the rim of the alabaster bowl with a cloth. He cleans the funnel. He cleans the stirring rod. He returns every tool to its proper place. The Roman sense of order is absolute. Everything has a place. Everything must be returned to it. He then turns his attention to a set of metal instruments lying on a velvet cloth. These are the strigils. They are curved tools made of bronze, shaped like a sickle or a prolonged letter J. They are used to scrape the oil and dirt from the skin. They are heavy and cold. He picks one up. The metal is dull. It needs to be polished. He takes a piece of soft leather and a small pot of fine pumice paste. He dips the leather into the paste and begins to rub the bronze. Rub, rub, rub. The sound is a soft friction, a whispering of leather against metal. He works on the handle first, rubbing away the tarnish of disuse. Then he moves to the blade. He follows the curve of the metal back and forth. The dull brown of the bronze begins to brighten. It starts to gleam. It catches the light of the oil lamp. He works slowly, methodically. He inspects the edge. It must be smooth. It must not scratch. He rubs a spot that looks uneven. He polishes it until it reflects his own face, distorted, warm, and calm. He puts the first strigil down and picks up the second. He begins again. Leather, paste, rub. The room is very quiet. The only sounds are the soft friction of the polishing and the occasional sputter of the lamp wick. Outside the room, the corridor is empty. The villa sleeps. The walls stand thick and silent. The air is still. He finishes polishing the set. 4 bronze strigils, now gleaming like gold in the dim light. He arranges them in a neat row on the velvet cloth, spacing them perfectly apart. They look like ceremonial objects, waiting for a ritual. And indeed, the bath is a ritual. The attendant sits back on his stool. His work in this room is done for the moment, but he does not leave. He sits with his hands folded in his lap. He looks at the row of oil bottles. He looks at the gleaming strigils. He looks at the flame of the lamp. He waits. In the distance, barely audible through the stone walls, comes the sound of the furnace slave adding another shovel of charcoal to the fire. A faint scrape, a distant clunk. It is a reminder that the system is working. The heat is flowing. The water is warm. The oil is ready. The attendant closes his eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to rest them from the dim light. He takes a deep breath, inhaling the scent of the room, lavender, rose, olive oil, and the metallic tang of polished bronze. It is a heavy, comforting smell. It is the smell of cleanliness and order. He opens his eyes. He stands up slowly. He trims the wick of the lamp with a small pair of iron shears. Snip. The charred bit of wick falls into the oil. The flame burns brighter, cleaner. He picks up a tray. He places the oil bottles and the strigils onto it. He lifts the tray. It is not heavy, but he carries it with reverence. He walks to the door of the Unctuarium. He steps out into the corridor. The stone floor is cool under his sandals, but as he walks towards the bathhouse, he can feel the warmth growing. The air gets heavier. The silence gets deeper. He is moving towards the steam. He is moving towards the milk. He is walking through the quiet heart of the winter night, carrying the tools of softness in his hands. He walks slowly. 1 step, 2 steps. The tray does not rattle. The bottles do not clink. He is a ghost in the hallway, a shadow serving the stillness. He reaches the door to the bath chamber. He does not open it yet. He sets the tray down on a small table outside the door. He adjusts the position of the bottles one last time. He turns the handle of the strigil so it faces the right way. Everything is prepared. The oil is infused. The bronze is polished. The towels are folded. The milk is warm. The night deepens. The stars wheel slowly overhead, marking the passage of time in the cold sky, unnoticed and unhurried. Here inside, time is measured only by the slow cooling of water and the quiet beating of a calm heart. There is nothing more to do but wait for the bather. And so the attendant waits, standing in the shadows of the corridor, silent and still as a statue, breathing in the warm, scented air. The corridor ends at a heavy wooden door bound in iron. This is the entrance to the Unctuarium, the changing room. It is the gateway between the world of the cold winter night and the sanctuary of the bath. The door is thick, made of oak planks that have darkened with age. An attendant pushes it open. The hinges are well oiled. They do not squeak, but rather emit a low, dull thrum, a vibration that can be felt in the floor more than heard in the air. The room revealed inside is spacious and dim. The air here is significantly warmer than in the corridor. It is a dry, pervasive heat that wraps around you the moment you cross the threshold. This is the first stage of the warming process, a gentle introduction to the temperatures that lie ahead. The room is rectangular, with a high, vaulted ceiling that is lost in the shadows above the reach of the oil lamps. The floor is the masterpiece of this room. It is not merely a surface to walk upon. It is a vast, intricate puzzle of stone. It is a mosaic composed of thousands upon thousands of tiny cubes called tesserae. They are small, no larger than a fingernail. Some are cut from white limestone, chalky and pale. Others are cut from black basalt, dense and dark. Look closely at the floor. The pattern is geometric, a design known as a meander. It is a continuous line that folds back on itself over and over again, creating a labyrinth of right angles, white line on black background. It runs along the border of the room. Follow the line with your eyes. It goes straight, then turns right, straight, then turns right again. It spirals inward, then spirals outward. It never breaks. It never ends. It is a loop of infinite patience, laid by hands that have been dust for generations. The center of the floor features a simpler design, a grid of white diamonds against a black field. The pattern is repetitive, row after row of identical diamonds. There is no variation. There is no chaos, just order. The light from the lamps reflects off the polished stone, creating a soft sheen that makes the floor look wet, though it is perfectly dry. But the most remarkable thing about this floor is not how it looks, but how it feels. Beneath these thousands of tiny stones lies the hypocaust, the hollow space connected to the furnace we visited earlier. The hot air from the fire circulates through the pillars underneath the concrete slab. The heat conducts upwards. It travels through the brick, through the mortar, through the concrete, and finally into the tesserae. If you were to stand here in your bare feet, you would feel a gentle, rising warmth. It is not hot enough to burn. It is just warm enough to banish the memory of the winter frost. It feels as though the stone itself is alive, radiating a living heat. This warmth rises from the floor and fills the room, pushing the cold air up into the vault where it can do no harm. Lined up against the walls are stone benches. They are carved from gray travertine, cool to the touch on the surface but slowly absorbing the ambient warmth of the room. They are smooth, worn down by the sitting of thousands of bathers over the years. Beneath the benches are the loculi, the niches. These are square cubbies built into the thick brick walls. They are like honeycomb cells, row upon row of dark, empty squares. Tonight the room is empty of crowds. There is no chatter of citizens, no rustle of tunics, no clatter of sandals. There is only the capsarius, the slave entrusted with guarding the clothes. He sits on a small wooden stool in the corner, his back resting against the warm plaster of the wall. The capsarius is a man of middle age. He sits with his hands clasped loosely in his lap. His job is one of waiting. He does not patrol. He does not speak. He simply exists in the room, a silent guardian of the empty niches. He watches the flickering flame of the lamp on the wall opposite him. The flame dances slightly in the draft of heat rising from the floor. He watches the shadow of the bench lengthen and shorten. He leans forward and adjusts the position of his own sandal. He undoes the leather strap. Swish. The leather is soft and worn. He reties it. He pulls the strap tight. He tucks the end in. It is a small, meaningless action done only to pass the time. He leans back again. He sighs, a soft exhalation that is instantly absorbed by the vastness of the room. The walls of the Unctuarium are painted in panels of deep red and ochre yellow. The colors are earthy and rich, visible only in the pools of light cast by the lamps. The plaster is smooth, polished to a shine that rivals marble. Behind these walls, too, there is heat. Embedded in the masonry are rectangular clay pipes called tubuli. The hot air from the basement rises through these pipes, turning the walls into large radiators. The room is a box of warmth, a cocoon. On a table near the entrance, a stack of wooden thick-soled sandals sits waiting. These are the solely balniers, bath clogs carved from wood. They are necessary because in the hotter rooms the floor will become too warm for bare feet. The attendant stands up slowly. He walks over to the table. He picks up a pair of the wooden clogs. He inspects them. The wood is pale, likely ash or beech. The soles are thick to provide insulation. The straps are made of leather. He places the clogs on the floor near one of the benches. He aligns them perfectly. Left foot, right foot. They sit side by side, toes pointing towards the next door, the door that leads deeper into the bathhouse. He adjusts the left clog slightly, moving it a fraction of an inch so that it is perfectly parallel with the right one. Satisfied, he returns to his stool. He sits. The wood of the stool creaks once, creak, then silence returns. The silence here is different from the silence of the stable or the Unctuarium. It is an expectant silence. The room is a stage waiting for an actor. The niches are waiting for clothes. The benches are waiting for weight. The sandals are waiting for feet. Outside, the wind picks up. A gust blows against the high, small windows of the bathhouse. These windows are glazed with thick, cloudy glass, small panes held together by lead strips. The wind rattles the glass slightly in its frame. Rattle, rattle. It is a distant sound, a reminder of the cold world that has been locked out. The wind cannot enter here. The cold cannot penetrate the layers of brick and the circulation of hot air. The rattle fades. The wind dies down. The capsarius closes his eyes for a moment. He listens to the hum of the building. The bathhouse makes sounds that are usually hidden by conversation. The settling of the stone, the expansion of the pipes as they heat up, a faint tick, tick, tick from the wall as the terracotta expands. He opens his eyes. He sees a speck of dust floating in the air, illuminated by the lamp. It drifts slowly, carried by the thermal currents. Up, sideways, down. It lands on the black tile of the mosaic floor, invisible against the dark stone. Time passes. How much time? It does not matter. There are no water clocks here to measure the minutes. There is only the cycle of the fire below and the warmth above. The door to the corridor opens again. The heavy oak swings inward. The sound interrupts the stillness, but gently. An attendant enters, carrying the tray of oils and strigils we saw earlier. He nods to the Capsarius. No words are exchanged. The Capsarius nods back. It is a silent greeting between men who work while others sleep. The attendant places the tray on the bench. The glass bottles clink softly. Clink. He arranges them next to the wooden sandals. He checks the towels again, though they haven't moved. He runs his hand over the top towel, smoothing an invisible wrinkle. The preparation of the Apoditirium is now complete. The room is warm. The floor is radiating heat. The tools are laid out. The guardian is at his post. The lighting is low and amber, casting long, soothing shadows. The atmosphere is heavy with the scent of burning wood from the furnace, filtered through the stone, mixing with the faint smell of old leather and wax polish. It is a soporific smell, a smell that encourages the eyelids to droop and the muscles to relax. There is a sense of heaviness in the air. The gravity seems stronger here. It pulls you down towards the warm benches. It invites you to sit, to stop moving, to stop thinking. The Capsarius shifts his weight on the stool. He rests his chin in his hand. He stares at the meander pattern on the floor. He traces the white line with his eyes again. Straight, turn, straight, turn, spiral in, spiral out. It is a visual mantra, a loop that calms the mind. The room waits. The heat rises. The night continues. The winter is held at bay by the engineering of Rome, by the fire in the pit and the air in the walls. Here, in this room of stone and wood, it is eternal, silent summer. The silence of the Apoditirium is finally broken, not by a shout or a trumpet, but by the softest of sounds, the brushing of fabric against stone. The lady has arrived. She enters from the corridor, followed by two female attendants. Her movements are slow, heavy with the fatigue of the day. There is no pomp in her arrival. There is no announcement. She is simply a figure moving from the darkness of the hallway into the amber glow of the changing room. She wears a palla, a long, heavy mantle of wool dyed a deep, earthy saffron. The wool is thick, woven tightly to keep out the winter chill. As she walks, the hem of the palla drags slightly on the mosaic floor. Swish, hush, swish, hush. It is a whispering sound like dry leaves blowing across a pavement. She stops in the center of the room, standing on the grid of white diamonds. The Capsarius in the corner does not rise. He merely lowers his eyes in respect, remaining as still as the furniture. The lady stands motionless for a moment, letting the warmth of the room seep into the heavy wool of her cloak. The heat from the floor begins to rise through the soles of her outdoor shoes, leather boots that are laced up to the ankle. The first attendant steps forward. She is a young girl with nimble fingers. She reaches for the bronze fibula, the brooch, that pins the heavy cloak at the lady's right shoulder. The brooch is shaped like a laurel leaf. The metal is cold. The attendant unclasps it. Click. A tiny, sharp sound in the quiet room. She pulls the pin free. The heavy wool of the palla slides from the lady's shoulder. It falls, caught by the waiting hands of the second attendant. The weight is lifted. The attendant gathers the heavy fabric. She bunches it in her arms. It smells of the outside air, cold, crisp, and faintly of the wood smoke from the city braziers. She moves to the bench. She begins to fold it. She shakes it once. Flap. Then she folds, corner to corner, edge to edge. The saffron wool is smoothed and placed into one of the empty niches. Beneath the cloak, the lady wears a stola. This is the traditional garment of the Roman matron. It is made of linen, lighter than the wool, dyed a pale, watery blue. It hangs loosely, gathered at the waist by a simple cord. The linen is soft, washed many times until it has lost all its stiffness. It ripples slightly as she breathes. She sits on the stone bench. The travertine is warm now. The heat has fully penetrated the stone. She lifts one foot. The first attendant kneels. She begins to unlace the leather boot. The laces are made of rawhide. They are knotted tightly. The attendant works the knot loose. She pulls the laces through the eyelets. Zip, zip, zip. The leather relaxes. She slides the boot off the heel. She pulls it free. The lady's foot is bare. It rests on the warm mosaic floor. The contrast between the confined leather boot and the open, warm air is immediate. The toes uncurl. The skin, pale and indented slightly by the laces, begins to flush pink with the warmth of the floor. The attendant moves to the other foot. The process repeats. Knot, laces, zip, zip, heel, pull. The second boot is removed. The attendant places the boots side by side near the wall, far away from the clean bathing sandals. Now the jewelry. The lady raises her hands to her neck. She wears a necklace of pearls strung on a gold wire. They are not large, ostentatious pearls. They are small, irregular river pearls. She finds the clasp at the back of her neck. It is a small hook. She fumbles for a moment, her fingers searching in the hair at the nape of her neck. The attendant steps in to help. She undoes the hook. The necklace slides off. It makes a fluid, rattling sound as it pools into the attendant's cupped hands. Ch, like water flowing over pebbles. The attendant walks to a small wooden jewelry box that sits on the table. She opens the lid. The hinges are stiff, creak. She places the pearls inside on a bed of velvet. She closes the lid. Thump. Next, the rings. The lady wears a gold ring on her ring finger set with a carnelian intaglio. She twists it. It is tight. She pulls. Slowly, the ring slides over the knuckle. She hands it to the attendant. The gold is warm from her body heat. Into the box it goes. Clink. Finally, the stola is removed. The cord at the waist is untied. The linen garment is pulled up over the head. The fabric rustles against the skin. It is lifted away, leaving the lady in her tunica interior, a simple, sheer slip of undyed silk. This layer she will keep for now as she moves into the next room. The attendant hands her the wooden clogs, the soli balniers. The lady slips her feet into them. The wood is hard and smooth against her soles. She stands. She is taller now, elevated by the thick wooden soles. She takes a step. Clack. The sound of wood on stone is hollow and distinct. Clack, clack. They move towards the next door. This door leads to the tepidarium, the warm room. It is the transition zone. The attendant opens the door. A wave of air meets them. It is warmer than the changing room, but not yet hot. It is comfortable. It is the temperature of a summer afternoon. The air is still. There is no draft here. They step inside. The door closes behind them, sealing out the cooler air of the apoditerium. The tepidarium is a large, vaulted hall. The ceiling is decorated with stucco reliefs, raised patterns of vines and grapes, painted in white and pale green. The steam from the distant hot rooms has drifted in here slightly, softening the edges of the reliefs, making the vines look as if they are growing in a mist. The walls here are marble, large slabs of gray and white marble polished to a high sheen. The lamps are fewer here, set into recessed niches. The light is dimmer, more mysterious. It reflects off the marble walls, creating pools of light that seem to float in the darkness. There is no pool in this room. There is only a large, circular bench in the center made of red porphyry stone, and along the walls more benches. This room is for sitting. It is for acclimatizing. The body must prepare for the heat. To rush from the cold directly to the hot is to shock the spirit. The Romans do not rush. The lady walks to the center bench. Clack, clack, clack. The echoes are different here. The vaulted ceiling catches the sound and holds it, letting it decay slowly. She sits on the red stone. It is radiantly warm. She leans back. She rests her hands on her knees. She closes her ideas. The attendants stand back, fading into the shadows near the walls. They are still. They breathe quietly. In this room, the focus is on the breath. The lady inhales. The air is warm and moist. It enters her lungs, warming her from the inside. She exhales. Her shoulders drop another inch. The tension of the day, the household management, the letters, the orders to the kitchen, begins to evaporate. She looks at the floor. The mosaic here is different. It depicts marine scenes. Dolphins, tridents, fish with shimmering scales made of glass paste. She stares at a dolphin. It is frozen in mid-leap, forever suspended in the stone ocean. She traces the curve of its back with her eyes. Up, down. The tail flukes are spread wide. The eye of the dolphin is a single black stone. Everything is still. A drop of condensation forms on the high ceiling, gathering on the nose of a stucco cherub. It grows heavy. It hangs there, defying gravity for a long moment. Then it falls. It falls through the warm air. Down, down, down. Plip. It lands on the marble floor in the corner. A tiny sound. A wet sound. It spreads into a small, dark circle on the stone. The lady watches the spot. She watches it slowly begin to evaporate in the heat of the floor. The edges of the water spot recede. It shrinks, smaller, smaller, until it is gone. The stone is dry again. The process of drying takes minutes. She watches the entire time. There is nothing else to do. The heat in the room is regulating her body temperature. Her skin is becoming supple. The pores are beginning to open, very slightly. The silk of her tunic clings to her skin, damp with the humidity of the room. An attendant approaches with a small bowl of the oil prepared earlier, the oil with the lavender and rose. She kneels. She dips her fingers into the oil. She begins to rub it onto the lady's arms. The motion is rhythmic, long, slow strokes, from the wrist to the elbow, from the elbow to the shoulder. The oil glistens on the pale skin. It smells of the summer garden, a sharp contrast to the winter stone. Rub, slide, rub, slide. The friction creates heat. The scent intensifies. The lady watches the attendant's hands, back and forth, back and forth. The repetition is hypnotic. The attendant does not speak. She concentrates on the movement. She works the oil into the skin, preparing it for the strigil, preparing it for the milk. The lady's arm is now coated in a thin, shining layer of oil. It reflects the dim light from the niche lamps. The attendant moves to the other arm, wrist, elbow, shoulder. Rub, slide, rub. The sound of skin on skin, lubricated by olive oil. A soft, squelching sound, squish, pat. Outside the tepidarium, deep in the hypocaust, the hot air currents shift. A subtle change in pressure causes a low moan in the pipes within the walls. Ooh, ooh. It is a low-frequency sound, almost below hearing. It vibrates the bench slightly. It is the building breathing. The lady does not startle. She is used to the song of the bathhouse. It is a lullaby of engineering. She lifts her head and looks toward the far archway. Through that arch lies the caldarium, the hot room. The steam is thicker there. It swirls around the entrance like a white curtain. Beyond that curtain lies the tub of donkey milk. But not yet. Not yet. For now, she sits in the tepidarium. She feels the oil on her skin. She feels the warmth of the red stone bench. She listens to the silence. She waits for her heart rate to slow down to match the rhythm of the dripping water, the rhythm of the slow, grinding world outside. She is a statue of flesh and silk, waiting in a temple of heat. The minutes stretch out. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. There is no clock. There is only the feeling of warmth seeping deeper and deeper into the bones. The attendant finishes with the arms. She wipes her hands on a cloth. She steps back into the shadows. The lady sits alone in the center of the light. The transition from the tepidarium to the caldarium is not just a change in location. It is a change in atmosphere. The lady stands up from the red porphyry bench. The wooden soles of her sandals make that familiar, hollow sound against the floor. Clack, clack. She moves towards the archway that separates the warm room from the hot room. There is no door here, only a heavy curtain made of felted wool. It hangs from a bronze rod blocking the view. The fabric is thick, dense enough to keep the intense heat contained within the inner sanctum. An attendant steps forward and pulls the curtain aside. The bronze rings slide along the rod with a low, metallic rasp. Shh clink. A billow of white steam rolls out, escaping its confinement. It curls around the lady's ankles, warm and moist. She steps through the archway. The curtain falls back into place behind her, sealing the world away once more. Inside the caldarium, the air is heavy. It has a physical weight to it. The humidity is near 100%. The heat is immediate, wrapping around the body like a thick, invisible blanket. It presses against the skin, softening it, opening every pore. The visibility is low. The room is filled with a shifting, white mist. The oil lamps are mere glowing orbs in the fog, their edges defined by a halo of scattered light. The architecture here is designed for heat. The ceiling is a dome curving high above. At the very top is the oculus, a circular opening to the sky. It is open to the winter night, but the cold air cannot enter. The rising column of hot steam rushes up towards the opening, creating a pressure barrier. If you were to look up, you would see the steam rushing out into the darkness, a white ghost escaping into the black sky. Condensation gathers on the curved walls of the dome. The steam touches the cooler plaster near the top, turning back into water. Droplets form. They slide down the curve of the ceiling, leaving shiny trails in the mist. They run down to the walls, joining together, trickling down the marble in silent, weeping lines. The floor is hot. Even through the thick wooden soles of the clogs, the lady can feel the intensity of the fire burning beneath the hypocaust. The tiles here are simple white marble, chosen because they reflect the light and make the steam appear luminous. And there, in the center of the apse, is the bath. It is the marble tub we saw being filled hours ago. It is no longer just a stone container. It is a vessel of pure whiteness. The 500 donkeys have done their work. The tub is filled to the brim with milk. The surface of the milk is perfectly still. It does not ripple. It is opaque, a dense, creamy white that hides the bottom of the tub completely. In the dim light, it looks like a block of solid white stone, until a drop of condensation falls from the ceiling and lands in the center. Plop. Ripples spread outward, slow and heavy. The liquid is more viscous than water. The ripples move sluggishly, dying out before they reach the edge of the marble. The lady approaches the tub. She stands on the single step that leads up to the rim. The attendant comes to her side. It is time to remove the final layer. The silk tunic, damp from the humidity of the tepidarium, clings to her skin. The attendant lifts the hem. The lady raises her arms. The silk slides up. It is pulled over her head. The fabric rustles softly, a sound like whispering paper. The tunic is taken away. The lady stands at the edge of the milk bath. She balances herself with a hand on the attendant's shoulder. She lifts one foot. She removes the wooden clog. Her bare foot hovers over the white surface. She lowers her foot. The heel breaks the surface. The milk is warm. It is not scalding hot like a water bath might be. Milk cannot be boiled without changing its nature, so it is kept at a perfect, tepid warmth, the temperature of the body itself. It feels silky against the skin, rich, soft. She steps down. The milk rises around her ankle, then her calf. It swirls around her leg, a white cloud consuming the limb. She places her weight on the floor of the tub. The marble bottom is smooth. She lifts her other foot. The second clog is removed. She steps in with both feet. She sinks slowly into the bath. She bends her knees. The level of the milk rises to her knees, to her waist, to her chest. She sits. The displacement of the liquid makes a low, sloshing sound. Gloosh, swash. The milk laps against the sides of the marble tub. It rises dangerously close to the rim but does not spill. The tension of the surface holds it back. She leans back against the sloped rear of the tub. The marble is warm behind her neck. She lets her arms float. They drift upwards, supported by the density of the fluid. Her hands disappear beneath the opaque surface. She is submerged in whiteness. The smell is unique. It is not like the floral scent of the oils. It is a primal, sweet scent. It smells of warm grain, of hay, of animal warmth, but refined. It is a comforting nursery smell. It masks the sulfurous smell of the furnace smoke completely. An attendant approaches the tub. In her hand, she holds a natural sea sponge. It is large, the size of a melon, and brown in color. It is a complex skeleton of a sea creature, filled with thousands of tiny holes and channels. It is dry and stiff. The attendant dips the sponge into the milk. Watch the sponge. It floats for a second, then begins to absorb the liquid. The air bubbles trapped inside are forced out. Glug, glug, glug. Large bubbles rise to the surface and burst. The sponge grows heavy. It darkens in color as it fills. It sinks slightly. The attendant lifts the heavy, sodden sponge. It drips profusely. A curtain of white drops falls from it, hitting the surface of the bath. Pitter, patter, pitter. She moves the sponge over the lady's shoulder, which is resting above the water line. She squeezes. The sound is a wet, squelching noise. Squeeze. A thick stream of warm milk pours from the sponge. It runs over the lady's shoulder, down her arm, and back into the bath. It coats the skin in a white film that clings for a moment before sliding off. The attendant dips the sponge again. Glug, glug. She lifts it, drip, drip. She moves to the other shoulder. She squeezes, squeeze, splash. This is the rhythm of the bath. There is no scrubbing yet, just the pouring. The gentle, repetitive hydration of the skin. The lactic acid in the milk is silently working, gently exfoliating, softening the rough edges of winter. The lady closes her eyes. The steam in the room muffles all sound. The world outside the bathhouse does not exist. The Roman Empire does not exist. There are no legions, no emperors, no taxes, no grain shipments. There is only the warm, white liquid and the sound of the sponge. Dip, soak, lift, squeeze. Dip, soak, lift, squeeze. The attendant works with mechanical patience. She moves down the arm. She squeezes milk over the wrist. She squeezes milk over the hands. The milk runs through the lady's fingers, creating tiny waterfalls that crash back into the tub. The steam in the room shifts. A draft from the heating vents pushes the mist in a slow spiral. It swirls over the surface of the tub like a slow-moving storm cloud. The light from the lamp catches the swirl, illuminating the microscopic droplets of water suspended in the air. The lady breathes in deeply. The damp air is soothing to the throat. She exhales. Her breath mixes with the steam, invisible. She slides down further into the tub until the milk touches her chin. Her ears are submerged. The sounds of the room change instantly. The drip of the condensation and the squelch of the sponge become dull thuds, muffled by the liquid. She hears the sound of her own heartbeat, amplified by the water conduction. Thump, 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 thump. It is a slow, steady rhythm. She floats there, suspended in the donkey milk. A feeling of weightlessness takes over. The heavy wool clothes, the leather boots, the gravity of the day all gone. Above her, through the steam, she can vaguely make out the oculus, a perfect circle of darkness. Occasionally, a gust of wind outside blows across the opening, creating a low, hollow whistle that echoes down into the dome. Woo-woo. It is a lonely sound, but here, in the warmth, it feels distant and safe. The attendant pauses. She rests the sponge on the rim of the tub. She picks up a small silver cup. She dips it into the bath, filling it with the warm milk. She pours it gently over the lady's forehead. The liquid runs down her hairline, over her closed eyelids, over her cheeks. It feels like warm silk moving across her face. It drips off her chin. Pour, flow, drip. The attendant repeats this, filling the cup, pouring the cup. It is a slow, deliberate act of washing. The milk gets into the eyelashes, making them heavy. It runs into the corners of the lips. It tastes faintly sweet. The level of the milk in the tub remains constant. The temperature remains constant. The furnace slave below is doing his job well. The floor is keeping the marble warm, and the marble is keeping the milk warm. Minutes pass. Many minutes. The lady does not move. The attendant does not speak. The only movement is the slow rise and fall of the lady's chest as she breathes, and the rhythmic squeezing of the sponge when the attendant resumes her task. A squeeze. The milk cascades. It creates a small foam on the surface where it hits, a cluster of tiny white bubbles that spin slowly and then pop. The room is a capsule of white noise and white warmth. It is boring. It is monotonous. It is perfect. The condensation on the ceiling grows heavy again. Another drop forms. It hangs. It falls. Plip. It hits the floor tiles near the tub. Then another plip. And another plip. The bath continues. The time in the milk bath has no defined end. It concludes only when the skin is saturated, when the fingers have softened, and when the mind has completely detached from the waking world. The lady remains still in the opaque white liquid, her body now sharing the exact temperature of the donkey milk. She is part of the bath. But the ritual must proceed. The cleansing in a Roman bath is not achieved by soap and water, but by oil and the strigil. The attendant, the one who polished the tools in the Unctuarium, steps forward from the shadows of the misty room. She holds the bronze instrument in her hand. It has been resting on a low marble shelf near the floor, warming in the ambient heat of the caldarium. The metal is no longer cold to the touch. It is tepid, living metal. She dips the strigil into the milk bath to lubricate it. The bronze disappears beneath the white surface and re-emerges, dripping. Drip, drip. The lady lifts her left arm from the water. It is heavy, glistening with a white sheen. The attendant takes the arm, supporting the wrist with her left hand. With her right hand, she positions the curved blade of the strigil against the forearm. This is a delicate operation. The strigil is a scraper, but it is used here with the gentleness of a caress. The edge of the bronze meets the skin. Slide. The attendant pulls the tool down the length of the forearm. The bronze pushes the milk and the softened oils of the skin before it. It collects the moisture. It clears a path of pink, glowing skin, leaving it clean and breathing. Slide. The sound is specific. It is a wet friction, a soft shh whip. It is the sound of cleansing. At the end of the stroke, the attendant flicks the wrist, clearing the collected milk from the channel of the blade. She wipes the blade on a rough linen cloth hanging at her waist. Wipe. She returns the blade to the top of the arm. She moves it 1 inch to the right. She begins again. Slide. The motion is slow. It takes 3 seconds to complete a stroke from elbow to wrist. 1, 2, 3. Lift, wipe. The repetition is absolute. There is no variation in pressure. The bronze follows the contours of the muscle. It rounds the curve of the elbow. It glides over the ulna. It is a massage of metal. The pressure pushes the blood along the veins, encouraging circulation, bringing a flush of heat to the surface. The lady watches the process. She sees the bronze track moving down her skin. She sees the milk being scraped away. It is a hypnotic visual, the clearing of the surface, the revealing of the skin beneath. The attendant finishes the left arm. She moves to the right, dip. The tool goes back into the milk, lift, slide. The room is silent except for this soft scraping sound and the occasional drip of condensation from the dome. The steam in the room seems to pulse slowly, expanding and contracting with the ventilation currents. When the arms are done, the lady leans forward. The water ripples around her waist. Swash. She presents her back. The attendant moves behind the tub. She places the strigil at the base of the neck. She pulls it down along the spine. Slide. This is a longer stroke. It travels down the center of the back. The metal presses firmly against the muscles on either side of the spine. It relieves tension. The accumulated stress of holding oneself upright during the day is scraped away, strip by strip. Slide, wipe, slide, wipe. The pattern covers the entire back. Left shoulder blade, right shoulder blade, the lower back. The rhythm acts as a metronome for the room. The second attendant, standing by the wall with the towels, sways slightly in time with the movement. Finally, the scraping is done. The strigil is set aside. It clatters softly onto the marble shelf. Clink. It is time to leave the milk. The lady places her hands on the rim of the marble tub. She pushes. Her muscles are relaxed, heavy. It takes effort to rise against the gravity that has suddenly returned. She stands up. The sound of the water displacement is loud in the quiet room. Gluosh. The milk cascades off her body. Streams of white liquid run down her legs, crashing back into the pool below. Splash, splatter, drip. She stands there for a moment, a statue rising from a white lake. The steam swirls around her. She is dripping wet. The milk coats her skin in a thin, protective layer. The second attendant approaches immediately. She carries the tower of towels we saw folded earlier. She holds a large sheet of Egyptian linen, warmed by the heat of the room. She opens it wide. It is a wall of fabric, pale cream in the dim light. She steps forward and wraps the lady in the linen. The sensation is one of immediate enclosure. The wet skin meets the dry, warm fabric. The linen absorbs the moisture instantly. The attendant pulls the ends of the sheet tight, wrapping the lady like a cocoon. She pats the fabric against the skin. Pat, pat, pat. The sound is muffled, soft thuds of hand on cloth on flesh. She rubs the shoulders. She rubs the arms through the fabric. She rubs the back. The friction generates a new kind of warmth, dry heat. The lady stands still, letting herself be dried. She does not help. She allows her arms to be lifted and dropped. She allows her feet to be dried one by one. The wet towel is removed. It is heavy now, dark with moisture. It is tossed into a basket in the corner. Thump. A second, fresh towel is brought. This one is draped over the lady's shoulders like a shawl. It is dry and hot. It smells of the lavender press where it was stored. The lady steps down from the tub. She finds her wooden clogs waiting on the warm tiles. She slips her feet into them. Clack. She is dry, she is clean, she is warm, but the process is not over. The body has been heated. Now it must be cooled, but very, very slowly. To leave now would be dangerous. The cold winter air would shock the system. They turn back towards the curtained archway. The attendant pulls the heavy felt aside. Shh clink. They step back into the tepidarium. The air here feels different now. Before it felt warm. Now after the intense steam of the caldarium it feels cool, refreshing. The humidity is lower, the air is clearer. The lady walks to the red porphyry bench again. Clack, clack, clack. She sits. This is the cooling phase, the sealing of the pores. She must sit here until the sweat stops, until her heart rate returns to its resting rhythm. An attendant brings a small glass of water. It is cool water drawn from a cistern deep underground. The glass is beaded with condensation. The lady takes it. She lifts it to her lips. She drinks. Gulp, gulp. The water is a shock of cold inside the core of heat. It travels down her throat. She can feel its path. It settles in her stomach, cooling her from the inside out. She hands the glass back. Clink. Now the final anointing. The attendant with the tray of oils approaches. The alabaster bowl, filled with the olive oil infused with rose and lavender, is brought forward. The oil has settled, but the scent is powerful. The attendant dips her fingers into the oil. She begins to massage the lady's feet. This is the grounding. The feet, which have walked on stone and wood, are kneaded. The oil is worked into the soles, into the heels, between the toes. Rub, press, circle. The thumb of the attendant presses into the arch of the foot. Press. It holds the pressure, then releases. Release. The oil seals the moisture from the milk bath into the skin. It creates a barrier against the winter wind. The skin shines in the dim light. It looks polished like marble. The lady watches the attendant's hands. She feels the tension leaving her feet. Her toes relax, her ankles relax. The sensation travels up her legs. Her calves relax, her thighs relax. She leans her head back against the wall. The stucco vines on the ceiling seem to be growing slower now. The shadows are longer. The lamps are burning lower. Outside, the wind has died down completely. The silence of the night is absolute. There is no sound from the city, no wheels on the pavement, no voices. Only the faint hiss of the oil lamps in the room and the slow breath of the lady. She is in a state of suspension, between awake and asleep, between hot and cold, between liquid and solid. She sits there for a long time. The oil is applied to her hands next, then her neck. A small amount is rubbed into her temples to soothe the mind. The scent of lavender is overpowering now, a heavy, floral cloud that hangs around her head. The attendant finishes. She wipes her hands, she steps back. The lady remains on the bench. She is wrapped in warm linen. Her skin is coated in fragrant oil. Her body is steeped in the heat of the furnace. She is heavy, so heavy. The transition to the final stage is approaching. The journey to the bed, but there is no rush. The stone bench is comfortable. The air is still. She stares at the flame of the nearest lamp. It flickers once, twice. It is a mesmerizing dance of yellow and blue. She watches the blue heart of the flame. It is steady. It is calm. The world slows down even further. The beat of time lengthens. A second feels like a minute. A minute feels like an hour. Rest. Wait. Breathe. The lady sits on the red stone bench of the tepidarium for a long time. The cooling process is slow, deliberate, and entirely necessary. If she were to rush out now, The heat trapped in her core would turn to a chill the moment it met the winter night. So she waits. The attendants wait. The room waits. The only measure of time is the subtle dimming of the oil lamps as their fuel is slowly consumed, turning the golden light into a deeper, sleepier orange. Finally, the temperature of her skin matches the temperature of the room. The transition is complete. An attendant steps forward from the wall, her movements soft and unobtrusive. She offers a hand. The lady takes it. Her skin is slippery with the rose-infused oil, but the grip is firm. She rises. The wooden clogs clatter once more on the mosaic floor. Clack, clack, but the sound is slower now. Her limbs feel heavy, draped in a pleasant lethargy. The tension of the muscles has dissolved into the milk and the steam. They move towards the door of the apoditarium. The attendant opens it. The air that greets them is familiar, the dry, radiant heat of the changing room floor. They step inside. The door clicks shut, sealing off the moist, scented air of the bathhouse behind them. The Capsarius is still there, sitting on his stool in the corner. He has not moved. He has not slept. He watches them enter with heavy-lidded eyes, then returns his gaze to the floor. His shift is long, but it is quiet. There is peace in the monotony. The lady walks to the bench where her clothes were stored, but she does not reach for the heavy saffron cloak or the day dress she wore earlier. Those have been folded away, destined for the cedar chests of the wardrobe room. Tonight, she dresses for sleep. An attendant opens a different niche. From it, she pulls a bundle of fresh fabric. It is a tunica nocturna, a sleeping tunic. For winter, it is not made of the sheer silk she wore into the bath. It is made of the finest brushed cotton, imported from the East, thick and soft as the down of a bird. It is unbleached, the color of natural cream. The lady sheds the bath sheet. For a brief moment, the air of the room touches her oil-sheened skin. Then, the tunic is lowered over her head. The fabric descends. It brushes against her face, her shoulders, her hips. It settles around her ankles. It is loose, designed to not constrict the body in any way. The sleeves are long, reaching past the wrists to the knuckles. She wiggles her fingers. The cotton cuffs are soft. Next come the feet. The wooden clogs are stepped out of. They are set aside, their job done. The attendant kneels with a pair of udons. These are Roman socks, but they are not knitted. They are sewn from felted wool. They are thick, dense, and shaped to the foot. The attendant holds the left sock open. The lady slides her foot in. The wool is slightly rough on the outside, but the inside has been rubbed with pumice until it is soft. The sock slides up over the ankle. It is pulled tight. It warms the foot instantly. Then the right sock, slide, pull, smooth. The lady stands in her socks on the warm mosaic floor. The sensation is different now. The direct heat of the stone is muffled by the wool, becoming a gentle, diffuse warmth that spreads up through her soles. Finally, she is given a shawl. It is a rectangle of light gray wool, woven loosely so it traps the air. She wraps it around her shoulders, crossing it over her chest. It is not for fashion. It is for the short journey from the bathhouse to the bedroom. She is ready. The procession forms. One attendant walks in front, carrying a lucerna, a bronze oil lamp with a handle shaped like the head of a griffin. The flame is shielded by a thin sheet of horn to prevent the wind from blowing it out. The lady follows. The second attendant walks behind, carrying the bath linens to the laundry. They leave the apoditarium. The heavy iron-bound door swings open. Rhythmic. They step into the corridor. The air here is colder. It is the air of the house, not the heated sanctuary. The lady pulls the shawl tighter. The stone floor of the hallway is not heated. Through the wool of her socks, she feels the coolness of the flagstones. It is a grounding sensation. It reminds the body that the world is sleeping. They walk. The corridor is long and straight. The walls are painted with frescoes of gardens and birds, but in the flickering light of the single lamp, the birds seem to be sleeping in their painted branches. The shadows of the three women stretch out long and thin against the wall, gliding alongside them like silent giants. Shuffle, shuffle. The sound of their soft-soled feet is barely audible. It is a whispering rhythm. They reach the end of the corridor and turn into the peristyle. This is the heart of the Roman house, an open-air courtyard garden surrounded by a colonnaded walkway. This is the moment of contact with the night. The walkway is roofed, but the center is open to the sky. The cold winter air flows in freely. It hits the lady's face, sharp and clean. It smells of frost, of wet earth, and of the cypress trees standing in the garden. She pauses for a moment to look. The moon is higher now, small and bright. The stars are hard, glittering points of ice in the black void. The garden is a study in grays and blacks. The rose bushes are bare skeletons, wrapped in straw to protect them from the frost. The statues of the ancestors stand on their plinths, pale and ghostly in the moonlight. In the center of the garden is a fountain. It is a simple basin where water flows from a bronze spout. Listen. Trickle, burble, splash. The sound is amplified by the silence of the night. It is a ceaseless, liquid music. The water falls into the pool, creating concentric rings that catch the moonlight. Ripple, ripple. The water is cold, dark, and deep. The wind rustles the leaves of a laurel tree. Shhhhh. It is a dry, crisp sound. The attendant with the lamp waits. She does not rush. She holds the light steady. The flame flutters inside its horn shield, casting dancing shadows on the marble columns. The columns are fluted, the grooves filled with shadow. They begin to walk around the perimeter of the garden. They stay under the roof of the colonnade, protected from the direct chill of the sky, but the cold air is all around them. It is refreshing after the intense heat of the caldarium. It tightens the skin. It clears the head. They pass a mural of a hunt. The painted dogs chase a painted stag. They have been chasing it for 100 years. They will chase it forever. Tonight, they run in silence. They pass a wooden door leading to the kitchen. It is closed. No light shows underneath. The cooks are asleep. The fires are banked. The only smell is the faint, stale scent of wood smoke and old bread. They pass the shrine of the Lares, the household gods. A small altar set into a niche. A tiny oil lamp burns there, a pinprick of light in the darkness. The gods are watching, silent and protective. The lady bows her head slightly as she passes. It is a reflex, a small gesture of respect in the dark. They reach the far side of the peristyle. The journey is almost over. The door to the private family wing stands before them. It is a heavy curtain of tapestry hanging from a cedar beam. The fabric depicts the marriage of Peleus and Thetis, but the figures are lost in the folds of the cloth. The leading attendant lifts the curtain. The heavy fabric sweeps aside. Swish. They step through. The air changes again. They are back inside the insulated core of the house. The air is still and slightly warmer here, retained by the thick walls. The smell of the garden, the earth and frost, is left behind. Here, the air smells of beeswax polish and dried herbs. They are in the hallway of the cubiculums, the bedrooms. The floor is covered in thick wool rugs, woven in patterns of red and blue. The lady's feet sink into the pile. It is soft. It is silent. Step, sink, step, sink. There is no sound of footsteps anymore. Only the faint rustle of the cotton tunic moving against the wool shawl. The attendant stops at a door on the right. It is a double door made of citrus wood, polished until it glows like dark honey. The grain of the wood is intricate, full of swirls and eyes. She turns the handle, the latch lifts, click. She pushes the door open. Inside, the room is glowing, not from bright lamps, but from the embers of a small brazier standing on a tripod in the corner. The coals are covered in ash, glowing a dull, sleepy red. They cast a faint, pulsating light on the ceiling. The room is small. Roman bedrooms were not places for activity, they were caves for sleeping. It is windowless to keep out the noise and the light. It is a box of silence. The walls are painted black, deep, obsidian black. In the center of the black panels are tiny, delicate paintings of swans and garlands. The blackness makes the walls disappear in the dim light. It feels as if the room has no boundaries, as if it goes on forever into the dark. In the center of the room stands the bed, the lectus. It is high, resting on legs of turned ivory. A small footstool stands beside it. The mattress is stuffed with wool and feathers. It is piled high with cushions. The attendant walks to the bedside table and places the lamp down. She adjusts the wick to its lowest setting. The flame shrinks to a tiny blue bead. The room darkens further. The lady enters the room. She crosses the rug. She stands by the bed. The walk is over. The bath is over. The day is over. There is nothing left but the wool, the feathers, and the dark. The room is a cavern of shadows and warmth. The walls, painted their deep, lustrous black, seem to absorb the faint light of the brazier, refusing to reflect it back. This creates a sensation of infinite space, as if the walls have dissolved into the night itself. There are no sharp corners here, no harsh lines. Only the soft glow of the embers and the silhouette of the great bed, the lectus. The bed is a masterpiece of rest. It stands high off the floor, supported by 4 legs carved from solid ivory. The ivory is old, yellowed slightly by time to the color of heavy cream. It is smooth, cool to the touch, but carved with intricate patterns of acanthus leaves that spiral down to the floor. The feet of the bed are shaped like the paws of a lion, resting silently on the thick wool rug. The frame of the bed is bronze inlaid with silver. In the daylight it would gleam, but here in the semi-darkness the metal is dull and dark. It is a sturdy frame built to hold the weight of sleep. Across this frame is stretched a web of leather straps. They are taut, interlaced in a grid. They provide the suspension. They do not squeak. They have been oiled and stretched until they are silent. Resting on this leather grid is the mattress, the Taurus. This is not a thin pallet of straw such as a soldier might use. This is a luxury of the empire. It is a large sack sewn from the finest Egyptian linen, bleached to a snowy white. And inside it is stuffed with the down of German geese. Thousands upon thousands of soft, white feathers, imported from the far northern provinces where the winters are long and the birds grow thick coats to survive the snow. The mattress is immense. It is a billow of softness. It rises high in the center, inviting the body to sink into it. The lady stands by the bed. She looks at the footstool, the scamnum. It is a small wooden step, necessary because the bed is so high. It is covered in a piece of tapestry cloth to prevent the bare foot from touching cold wood. She steps onto the stool. Creak, a tiny sound of wood adjusting to weight. She turns. She sits on the edge of the mattress. Listen to the sound of the mattress. F. It is the sound of air being gently forced out from between the feathers. The linen casing rustles softly, a sound like dry grass in a summer breeze. The mattress yields. It sinks under her weight, molding itself instantly to the shape of her body. The feathers compress, creating a perfect, supportive cradle. She lifts her legs. She swings them up onto the bed. The wool socks brush against the linen sheet. Shh. She scoots back. The mattress shifts again, accommodating her movement. She is now in the center of the bed. She is an island in a sea of linen and down. The attendant approaches to arrange the covers. The bed is dressed in layers, just as the lady was dressed. First, the bottom sheet. It is already warm, having absorbed the heat of the room. It is smooth and tight. Then the top sheet. The attendant pulls it up. It is light, fine linen, meant to lie directly against the skin or the cotton tunic. It settles over the lady's legs like a mist. And finally, the stragula, the great coverlet. This is a heavy blanket woven from the wool of Tarentine sheep. It is dyed a rich, deep purple, the color of a bruised plum or the sky just before total darkness. It is thick. It is heavy. It weighs as much as a shield, but it is soft as a cloud. The attendant lifts the heavy wool. She casts it out over the bed. It floats for a second, catching the air, billowing up like a sail. Then it settles. Whump! It lands over the lady. The weight is immediate and comforting. It presses down gently on her legs, her hips, her chest. It anchors her to the mattress. It provides a physical sensation of security. The heavy wool traps the body heat instantly. Under this cover, the cold of the winter night is a myth. It cannot exist here. The attendant moves to the side of the bed. She begins to tuck the edges of the coverlet under the mattress. She works her way from the foot of the bed up towards the head. Tuck smooth, tuck smooth. She ensures there are no drafts. The wool is pulled taut across the mattress, creating a sealed envelope of warmth. She reaches the lady's shoulders. She folds the top edge of the sheet and the blanket down, creating a neat, crisp turnover. Now the pillows, there are two. They are large and rectangular, filled with the same soft goose down as the mattress. The cases are silk, cool to the cheek. The attendant fluffs the top pillow. Punchy. She shapes it. She places it behind the lady's head. The lady leans back. Her head sinks into the pillow. Her neck is supported. The feathers rise up around her ears, muffling the silence even further. The silk is smooth against her skin. She sighs. It is a long, deep exhale. The breath leaves her body, and with it, the last remnants of the day's activity. Her shoulders drop. Her hands rest on top of the purple wool coverlet. Her fingers are still slightly oily from the massage, feeling the texture of the coarse wool weave. The room is nearly perfectly still. The attendant has one final task. She walks to the brazier in the corner. She takes a small bronze tool and gently stirs the embers. Clink, scrape. She buries the glowing coals under a layer of fresh ash. This will keep the fire alive but dim the light and slow the burning. The red glow fades to a barely perceptible pulse. She walks to the oil lamp on the bedside table. It is the only light left. The flame is a tiny speck of blue and gold. She looks at the lady. The lady's eyes are heavy. Her breathing has already slowed, matching the rhythm she found in the bath. The attendant bows her head. She steps back. She walks backwards towards the door, her feet making no sound on the thick rugs. She reaches the heavy citruswood door. She grasps the handle. She pulls the door towards her. Creak. The gap of light from the hallway narrows. The strip of brightness on the floor gets thinner, thinner. Click. The latch engages. The door is closed. The lady is alone. Now the room is truly dark. The only light comes from the faint, dying glow of the brazier ash in the far corner, a dull red eye that watches over the room. It casts no shadows, only a faint suggestion of depth. The silence is heavy. It is a physical presence. The thick stone walls of the villa block everything. There is no wind sound here. No water sound, no voices. There is only the sound of the lady's own body, the rush of blood in her ears amplified by the pillow. Whoosh, whoosh, the slow intake of breath. In, the slow release. Out. She lies on her back. She feels the heavy wool blanket pressing down on her toes. She wiggles them. The wool resists. It is a cozy weight. She feels the softness of the mattress beneath her spine. It supports every vertebra. She stares up into the darkness. She cannot see the ceiling. She cannot see the paintings of the swans. She can only see the velvet blackness. Her eyes begin to adjust, but there is nothing to see. The visual world has been turned off. There is only the tactile world left. The feeling of linen, the feeling of wool, the feeling of warmth. The scent of the room is subtle. It is the smell of the clean sheets, dried in the sun and stored with dried apples to keep them sweet. It mixes with the lingering scent of the lavender oil on her skin. It is a clean, dry, domestic smell. She shifts slightly to the left. The feathers rustle, crinkle. The bed groans very softly. She settles again. Her mind begins to drift. It does not go to the events of the day. It does not go to the plans for tomorrow. It stays here in the texture of the moment. She thinks of the donkey milk, how white it was, how still. She thinks of the steam rising in the dome. She thinks of the olive oil, gold and thick. The images are slow. They slide through her mind like honey. They do not demand attention. They are just there. The warmth of the bed is increasing. The wool captures her heat and reflects it back. A cocoon of perfect temperature is forming around her. It is warmer than the bath, warmer than the air. It is the warmth of sleep. Her eyelids feel heavy. They want to close. It is an effort to keep them open. Why keep them open? There is nothing to see. She blinks. The darkness remains the same. She blinks again, slower this time. The eyelids slide down. They touch the lower lashes. They stay there for a moment. Then they lift, but only halfway. She is floating. The bed feels like a raft on a calm, dark ocean, drifting, drifting. Outside, far away, a dog barks. Once, a tiny, muffled sound that penetrates the walls like a ghost. Woof. Then silence returns. The silence rushes back in to fill the space where the sound was, burying it. The lady takes a deep breath. She turns her head to the side, pressing her cheek into the cool silk of the pillow. She pulls the heavy coverlet up a little higher, tucking it under her chin. Her hand finds a fold in the wool and holds it. She is safe. She is warm. She is still. The Roman Empire continues to turn outside. The guards change shifts on the walls. The bakers begin to stir the flour for the morning bread. The stars rotate around the pole. But in this room, time has stopped. There is only the breathing, in, out, in, out. The darkness is soft. It wraps around her like the second blanket. She lets go of the tension in her jaw. She lets go of the tension in her hands. She lets go of the tension in her feet. She sinks deeper into the feathers. Down, down, down. The lady lies in the absolute darkness of her chamber. The world has narrowed down to the rectangular island of her bed. The heavy purple wool of the stragula creates a barrier between her and the air of the room, trapping a pocket of warmth that is entirely her own. She does not move. There is no need to move. Her hands are tucked beneath the covers, resting on her stomach, rising and falling with the slow tide of her breath. Inhale, the wool rises. Exhale, the wool sinks. It is a microscopic movement, the only motion left in the room. The silence is not empty. It is a heavy, velvet substance that fills the corners and presses gently against her ears. It is the silence of thick stone walls, of heavy tapestries, of a house that has closed its eyes. Beyond the citruswood door, beyond the hallway of rugs, The rest of the villa is settling into the deep anchor of the night. The house is a living thing that rests when its masters rest. In the great atrium, the main hall of the house, the moonlight has shifted. Earlier it fell on the statue of the ancestor. Now, as the moon climbs higher and moves westward, the beam of light has crawled across the mosaic floor. It illuminates the impluvium, the shallow pool in the center of the room designed to catch rainwater. The water in the pool is perfectly flat, a sheet of black glass. A single moth, woken by some disturbance, flutters near the ceiling of the atrium. Its wings are dusty and gray. It flies in a slow, erratic spiral. F-whip, F-whip. It bumps softly against a marble column. It rests there, blending into the stone. It becomes still. The movement stops. Further back in the kitchen, the heat of the cooking fires has finally dissipated. The clay ovens are cooling. The iron pots are scrubbed and stacked. The smell of garlic and roasted meat has faded, replaced by the cool, stony smell of the floor. A mouse scurries along the baseboard. Scritch-scratch. It pauses. It twitches its nose. It smells nothing but clean ash. It retreats into its hole. The kitchen returns to the dark. Deep beneath the floors, in the service tunnels where the furnace lives, the slave who tends the fire has stopped his work. He has banked the coals with a thick layer of ash to keep them smoldering until dawn. He sits on a wooden stool, his back against the warm brick of the furnace wall. His head is bowed. He is asleep. His breathing is a soft, rhythmic rasp in the dusty air. The shovel rests against his knee. The fire glows dully behind the iron grate, a slow, red pulse that mimics the heartbeat of the sleeping man. Thump, 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 thump. The heat from the furnace, though the fire is low, continues to drift upwards. It moves through the hypocaust channels, through the hollow bricks, wandering like a warm ghost through the skeleton of the house. It keeps the dampness at bay. It keeps the winter from seizing the stone. Outside the villa walls, the Roman night is vast and indifferent. The city of the living has become a city of structures. The streets are empty canyons of shadow. The paving stones are cold, frosting over with a thin, glittering layer of ice. At the gate of the villa, a porter sits in a small lodge. He is wrapped in a thick cloak of rough wool, the collar pulled up to his ears. He is not asleep, but he is in a trance of boredom. He stares at the oil lamp burning on the table in front of him. The flame is small, sheltered from the draft. He watches a droplet of oil slide down the side of the wick. It moves slowly. It merges with the pool of oil below. He shifts his weight on the bench. The wood groans, creak. He sighs. He looks out the small window at the street. Nothing moves, no carts, no soldiers, no beggars, just the empty street and the moon. He rubs his hands together to generate a little heat. Swish, swish. He settles back into his stillness. He is the guardian of the quiet. Back in the bedroom, the lady's mind is beginning to untether itself from reality. The thoughts that cross her mind are no longer linear. They are soft, shapeless images. She thinks of the milk bath again. But now, in the dark, the memory changes. The milk is not in a tub, it is a vast white ocean. She is floating in it, but she is dry. The milk supports her. It is warm and thick. It stretches out to the horizon, meeting a white sky. There is no sun, just a diffuse, gentle light that comes from everywhere and nowhere. The image fades. Now she feels the weight of the stragula, the purple coverlet. In her mind, the wool becomes a field of heather. She is lying in the field. The purple flowers are soft beneath her. The smell of lavender from the oil on her skin becomes the smell of the field. A gentle breeze blows over her, not cold, but cool enough to make the warmth of the sun pleasant. The sensation of her body is changing. The boundaries of her skin seem to be dissolving. She can no longer tell exactly where her shoulder ends and the pillow begins. The The silk of the pillowcase and the skin of her cheek have merged into a single sensation of smoothness. Her feet, encased in the wool socks, feel distant. They are miles away, warm and heavy anchors holding her to the earth. She tries to move a finger. The signal from her brain travels down her arm, but it is weak. The finger twitches, barely moving the heavy sheet. It is too much effort to move. It is better to be still. It is better to let gravity win. Gravity is pulling her down, not just down into the mattress, but down into the center of the world. She feels heavy, as if her bones have turned to lead, but it is a pleasant heaviness. It is the heaviness of a stone resting at the bottom of a clear, sunlit river. The water flows over the stone, but the stone does not move. It sits in the sand, solid and at peace. Her breathing deepens further. The pauses between the exhale and the inhale grow longer. Exhale, pause, 1, 2, 3, inhale. The air in the room is still. The dust motes that danced in the light of the lamp earlier have all settled on the floor. The air is clear and empty. In the corner, the brazier makes a sound. Tick. A piece of cooling charcoal shifts as it contracts. The sound is sharp but small. It does not wake the lady. Instead, it incorporates itself into her drifting consciousness. In her dream mind, the tick becomes the sound of a twig snapping in the purple field, or the sound of a loom working far away. The darkness of the room seems to press against her eyelids. It is not a frightening dark. It is a protective dark. It is a blanket of black velvet wrapped around the blanket of purple wool. It shields her from the need to see. It tells her, there is nothing to see. There is nothing to do. The eyes can rest. The muscles in her face completely slacken. The tiny lines of concentration on her forehead smooth out. The jaw unclamps. The tongue rests on the floor of the mouth. She is sinking through the layers of the mattress. First layer, the crisp linen sheet, cool and smooth. Second layer, the feathers, thousands of soft, white clusters compressing, holding, adapting. Third layer, the leather straps of the bed frame, strong and silent. Fourth layer, the ivory legs, standing firm on the floor. Fifth layer, the floor itself. The rugs, the stone, the earth. She feels connected to all of it, a vertical column of rest. The logic of the waking world is gone. Time is no longer linear. A minute could be an hour could be a second. She is drifting on the edge of the cliff of sleep. She is not falling, she is gliding down a gentle slope. The slope is covered in moss. It is soft and green and damp. She slides down it, deeper and deeper into the valley of rest. A final, coherent thought floats through her mind, light as a feather. The milk was warm. Then the thought dissolves. The words break apart into letters, the letters into sounds, the sounds into silence. The lady is no longer waiting for sleep. She is no longer preparing for sleep. She is entering the vestibule of sleep. The room holds her. The house holds the room. The night holds the house. Everything is heavy. Everything is slow. Everything is soft. The only rhythm left is the breath, whoosh, whoosh. And the slow, silent beating of her heart, pushing the blood through the veins, warm and steady, carrying the oxygen to the sleeping muscles, carrying the peace to the sleeping mind. Thud thud, thud thud. The night is long. There are many hours left before the sun will touch the tiles of the roof. There is no rush. The darkness stretches out ahead, a long, flat road of quiet. She walks that road now, not with her feet but with her spirit, walking away from the villa, away from the bath, away from Rome, into the mist of the unconscious. The mist is white, like the milk. She steps into the white mist. The lady has crossed the threshold. She is no longer awake. The transition from the world of senses to the world of dreams is complete. The rise and fall of the purple coverlet is now mechanical, a slow, automatic tide controlled by the deepest parts of the brain. The rhythm is steady. Inhale, exhale. It is the rhythm of the ocean, the rhythm of the seasons, the rhythm of a life at total rest. Inside the room, the environment adjusts to this final state. The oil lamp on the bedside table, the one with the tiny blue flame, has been burning for hours. The oil level in the reservoir is critically low. The wick, starved of fuel, begins to consume itself. The flame flickers once, a small shudder of light on the black walls. Then it shrinks. It becomes a pinprick of orange, then a spark, and then it vanishes. A thin ribbon of gray smoke rises from the extinguished wick. It curls straight up in the still air, smelling faintly of burnt linen. It disperses into the darkness. The room is now pitch black. The faint glow of the brazier ash in the corner is too weak to cast light. It only provides a vague sense of heat, a dying warmth that will last just long enough to see the night through. The objects in the room lose their definitions. The ivory legs of the bed, the silver inlay of the frame, the tapestry on the footstool, they all merge into the singular shadow of the night. They are still there, holding their places, waiting faithfully for the morning that is hours away. Zoom out from the bed. Move through the citruswood door, through the silent hallway of rugs. In the slave quarters, the attendants who serve the bath are also sleeping. They lie on simple pallets filled with straw. They are tired. Their hands, smelling faintly of the rose oil and the donkey milk, rest by their sides. Their breathing joins the collective respiration of the household. A dozen people breathing in the dark. It is a chorus of rest. Move further out, to the stable where the journey began. The 500 donkeys are asleep. Some stand, locking their legs in that peculiar way animals do. Others have lain down in the straw. The stable is warm with their body heat. The sound of chewing has stopped. The sound of hooves on wood has stopped. There is only the sound of heavy animal breathing, a low, rumbling vibration that fills the long wooden building. A mouse runs along a rafter, stops, and cleans its whiskers. It is the only thing moving. Move to the bathhouse. The caldarium is dark. The lamps have been extinguished. The furnace fire below is banked deep. The room is slowly cooling. The steam has settled. The water on the walls has ceased to drip. It has evaporated or run down to the floor. But the marble tub, is still full. In the darkness, the donkey milk sits heavy and white. It is perfectly still. No ripples, no movement. It holds the memory of the warmth for a long time, a silent, white lake in the center of the stone room. It waits to be drained in the morning to flow out into the sewers of Rome, carrying away the dust of the day. For now, it just sits, dense, creamy, silent. Move outside, into the garden. The moon has crossed the meridian. It is beginning its descent towards the horizon. The shadows of the cypress trees have shifted, swinging slowly across the grass like the hands of a giant, slow clock. The frost has thickened. The blades of grass are coated in white crystals that sparkle in the weak light. The stone bench where the lady might sit in summer is covered in a thin sheet of ice. The fountain continues to trickle, drip, drip, splash. The water does not sleep. It is the only constant. It marks the passing of seconds that no one is counting. Move beyond the villa walls. The city of Rome lies under the blanket of winter. The greatest city in the world is quiet. The noise of the carts, the shouts of the vendors, the tramp of boots, all gone. The streets are empty canyons of gray stone. A stray dog trots silently down a paved alley. It stops to sniff at a doorway. It moves on. Its paws make no sound on the cold stones. On the distant Palatine Hill, the palaces of the emperors are dark. The marble columns stand white and ghostly against the black sky. Even the rulers of the world must sleep. Even they must close their eyes and drift into the dark, leaving the empire to turn on its own for a few hours. The wind shifts. A breeze comes down from the Apennine Mountains to the north. It carries the smell of snow. It blows over the city, over the tiled roofs, over the river Tiber, which flows black and sluggish towards the sea. The wind touches the walls of the lady's villa, but it cannot get in. The walls are too thick. The shutters are too tight. Back in the room, the lady sleeps on. She has entered the deepest phase of sleep. Her body is paralyzed in comfort. Her mind is a blank slate. There are no dreams now, just existence, just the slow recharge of life. The heavy purple wool blanket is a weight that anchors her to the earth. The feathers of the mattress are a cloud that holds her up. She is suspended between the wool and the feathers, floating in the warm dark. Time dissolves completely. 1 hour passes, 2 hours pass, 3 hours. The night is a long, dark tunnel, and she is drifting through it without effort. There is nothing to worry about. The donkeys are fed. The milk is poured. The oil is bottled. The doors are locked. The fire is banked. Everything is done. Everything is finished. The silence is absolute. It is a silence that has weight. It presses gently on the ears, humming with the absence of sound. Inhale, exhale. The cycle continues. It will continue until the first gray light of dawn touches the eastern sky, hours from now. But that is a different story. That is a story for the waking. For now there is only this: the warmth, the darkness, the heavy, soft, unending quiet. The story is over. The work is done. Sleep.